Hello, welcome to Scandinavian Films at Cannes 2022. My name is Wendy Mitchell. Look at this magnificent balcony we're on today. I am here with Emile Hertling Péronard, who is the producer of Polaris, which is directed by Ainara Vera. And Emile, you work in Greenland and in Denmark at your companies Stanic and Polaris. Let's talk a little bit about Polaris first. A really beautiful documentary. It's going to be the closing film of the Doc Day here in Cannes, and it's in the ACID program. How did you first meet Ainara? Was she working on another project in Greenland, I think?
Yes, you're kind of on the right track there. And can I just say thanks, Wendy, for having me and for, just being here. It's actually my first time in Cannes, and I arrived 2 hours ago, and I'm so overwhelmed. And this is kind of like living up to, all the expectations you could possibly have, right? So
amazing.
Great to be here.
Right into it.
Just to get that out of the way.
Yes.
No, but Polaris is a fantastic collaboration between Ainara, Clara, and myself. Clara is the French producer. And the backstory is that Ainara and I, we both worked on Aquarella by Victor Kossakovsky. And 6 years ago, we were shooting in Greenland for that film. And it was kind of like a big, ambitious shoot. And when we arrived in the Disco Bay area in this town called Ilulissat, which is kind of like one of the most beautiful places in Greenland, and we're doing this film about water. And as we arrive to this town, we hear from the local tourist agent that there's this yacht, and it's docked in the harbor, and it's available, and we can rent it if we want to. And Aquarella was one of these projects where you can do stuff like that. And we were like, okay, let's go meet them and say hi. And we go and have a meeting in this boat, and it turns out the skipper is this tiny woman of French Algerian roots. Her name is Hayat, and that's the first time we meet her. And we kind of decide to rent this boat for the shoot, and we shoot on this boat for I think 10 days, and do all these like crazy shots that's in the film if you've watched it, and the whole experience, we're so captivated by this captain, and we're a big team. A lot of the guys are big men, and we're
manly
all
sailor
exactly
types.
Yeah, but we're all totally terrified of this woman, and she's so charismatic, and she has so much authority. And after a while, when we get more acquainted and towards the end of the shoot, we all loosen up a bit more, and she tells us this story about life as a woman in this business of being a professional yacht captain. She has to put on this attitude, because if she doesn't, no one will ever respect her, and that's really a safety hazard when you're sailing in environments like that. So, we say our farewells, and the film premieres, and then afterwards Ainara calls me up and say, dude, we need another film. I want to make a film about Hayat. So that's how we met the main character of Polaris, and that's how Ainara and I started working together again.
Great, and the film is very much about Hayat and her sister.
Yes.
So what was it, it's not just because it's partially shot in Greenland that you wanted to be involved. What moved you about this story? Why did you want to really bring this film to the world?
Hayat moved me, and I have to say also Ainara moved me. Her presence is amazing, and we felt that on the Aquarella shoot as well. So I was quite curious and drawn towards what her next thing would be, right? She was the assistant director on that film. But as we got to know Hayat, we also got to know a little bit about her backstory and how she kind of fled the ghettos of Montpellier when she was a teenager, and she came from a broken home, and she really she accomplished so much in sailing, and that was a kind of an incredible story in itself. But what Ainara then discovered was the story about the sister. And the sister is still in Montpellier. She doesn't have an education, she doesn't have a job, she was in prison, and the film Polaris kind of starts when she's having a baby. And in the meantime, Hayat is in Iceland, she's sailing, she's far away from everything, she's kind of turned her back on her whole past and her family, and she's kind of now really torn. She's having this niece, there's no father, there's only actually her, so she's really like, how can I do this? Can I help my sister and this little baby in the world? And that's what the film is about. So it's really it's a beautiful film about contrasts. The contrast between the darkness of the Montpellier ghetto and the magnificent midnight sun of northern Greenland, and then these two sisters who are also really very different.
I think people are going to love it here in Cannes, and you just told me, I think it's the first film ever in Cannes that has a Greenlandic production company involved. Is that right?
That's true. That's true.
How amazing.
Yeah, it's really...
And I know Greenland, I'm starting to hear much more about this Greenlandic film industry, partly down to you and your company Polaris. Can you tell us a little bit about, what else you think is on the horizon for Greenlandic filmmaking, for other films coming to shoot in Greenland? I know that's a big question. We could talk for an hour about what's going on. But
several hours.
Yeah, what do you want people to know about what's going on in Greenland?
Just that, we are all experiencing like this huge interest right now. It's quite overwhelming from production companies and streamers and broadcasters wanting to come to Greenland to shoot stuff. We have offers coming in all the time. And 2 years ago, I set up a production service company in Greenland, the first ever production service company, Polaris. And our first job was the Borgen TV series, which is like a huge thing, like also internationally. And we did a Netflix film with Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, Against the Ice, and a few other things. So it kind of like out of nowhere, it really skyrocketed. And I think in terms of the Greenlandic film industry, this is on the one hand really great because there's a lot of work for the Greenlandic film professionals. On the other hand, there's also a risk of being carried away by telling other people's stories all the time. So I think that's something that we really need to safeguard, that we all also preserve the time to do our own film projects. Yeah. We always want to bring the best crew to our teams, but if the best cinematographer is always doing Borgen and Against the Ice and all these other things, he won't be able to do the Greenlandic feature films, the Greenlandic short films. So it's quite a tricky balance. Yeah. At this particular time, there's so much opportunity, and we try to seize that in both, in getting stories out and coming here and advocating for what we do, but also for training the professionals so we can make even better Greenlandic films.
Yeah, no, I keep hearing so much also with one of your partners in Polaris, Pippa Luke Jorgensen is very active, I know, and she's very busy on various projects. And I think you're also involved in the Arctic Indigenous Film Fund.
Yeah.
And correct me, but you're going to talk about that at the Producers Network here in Cannes,
yes,
right?
I am,
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. That whole initiative is very much in line with this idea of having to also preserve our own stories and tell them ourselves. So the Arctic Indigenous Film Fund was established in 2018 by the Sami Film Institute in collaboration with Greenland, Canada, Alaska, and a few other, and also Russia. Even all the circumpolar Arctic. And so what we are trying to do now here in Cannes is to advocate for this fund, and because right now the fund is established, but it's not funded. So we really need people to be aware of this, to be aware of the fact that we need to have a voice, that we can't just let other people all the time tell our stories for us. So tomorrow morning at the breakfast meeting at the Producers Network, we have 5 Indigenous Arctic film producers coming in, presenting our work and doing a little talk, and hopefully spread the good message.
Great, and hopefully get some more funding in there.
Me too.
And so you've only been in Cannes for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Can we already ask you, what's your first impressions? Is it crazier than you thought it would be? What are you feeling?
I think just standing here, it kind of lives up to all the expectations that you have when you've never been here before. And then there's another thing, and I don't know why, but I have this idea that for this to be Cannes, like proper Cannes, I have to jump in a swimming pool wearing a suit. I don't even know where that idea came from, but I don't feel that it's a real Cannes before I do that. So
I'm picturing a sort of Mads Mikkelsen in Another Round kind of vibe. Let's find you some parties with pools. And yes, I can point out that the sea is right there. So if you don't find the right pool, I would encourage you maybe after the Polaris premiere, a little dip in the sea, always refreshing.
I'm going to check that out later.
And probably a little bit warmer than Greenland,
yes.
I hope. Yeah. Any other thoughts about what your hopes are for this week in Cannes and for the film?
Well, initially I was just hoping to go here and have the experience and chill out for a little bit. And now all of a sudden it's really hectic. I'm also pitching a documentary on Monday, Twice Colonized, which is in post-production. And we have a rough cut ready, so that's quite exciting time to be in a project where you actually have something to show. So it's part of the Circle Accelerator presentation on Monday. So that's exciting too. So a lot of things on the agenda.
You've got a lot going on, but I hope you have some time to have fun in Cannes. Thank you for stopping by this amazing Scandinavian Films house, our Scandinavian house, this amazing balcony, and enjoy Cannes, Emile.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so much. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks.